behind the collection is to show history through different eyes and from a different perspective.
Each piece is complex. Each piece is specifically created to be complex.
He's challenging us to talk, to ask questions, to debate.
The history of South Africa isn't a simple story. There were hugely complex personalities involved in our transformation. And what I wanted to do was to commission an artist to put together images that told specific stories that happened at a certain time in history. And Dean Simon was the perfect person to do that.
Art has been a major part of my life almost from day one. I look at things very differently, I process things very differently. I don't see words or numbers, I see everything in pictures.
I specifically sought Dean out because he's perfected a style that takes photorealism to a different level.
You're creating a separate reality that may have existed or doesn't exist, or never will exist. It's almost like becoming a human camera.
Each piece could be a photograph, but the fact that it's not a photograph is what provokes the thought process. So this is the one piece I've been waiting for, because I would imagine that this is kind of the defining piece of the collection.
Well, I would like people to walk away from the exhibition and to think things through for themselves. So what I'm really doing is asking questions, I'm not really providing answers. You want them to go away to think about it and find out more about things for themselves, rather than blindly following a narrative written down in a history book from a specific viewpoint. We're currently sitting in the old fort, which is part of the Constitutional Hill precinct. The history of this place, just in terms of generations, so much has happened here.
This collection is going to be presented for the first time at the old fort because of the importance of the place.
This prison was actually built by Paul Kruger as a buffer against what he saw as outside interference. And the different governments used this as a way of getting rid of what they thought were threats to their existence, to their way of life.
Many of the subjects of the pieces had a connection with this place.
My husband, Chris Sani, was a member of the military wing of the ANC. On the 10th of April in '93, my husband was assassinated in our home in Boksburg. When seeing him in the artwork, I just remembered how much I missed him. And I thought of my children and my granddaughter that, wow, we acknowledge the sacrifices that were made by our heroes. We acknowledge that we are here today because they made sacrifices. This is history. This is our history as South Africans. What I find about the artwork that you have done, you have tried, and in my view, you have succeeded to capture what happened before '94, and what you have illustrated here is going to be very helpful to our children. Because let me tell you, our children don't know our history, and they might repeat the same mistakes that adults committed before '94.
If you can point out the mistakes of the past, as well as the positives of the past, maybe it'll help you to understand in looking to the future, in being able to identify the same positives and negatives. Because history is a cycle. It keeps repeating itself.
Our Heritage Art collection set out to get South Africans talking about their heritage. And it was for that reason that we gave Dean Simon creative freedom.
It's been as much of a learning curve for me as I hope it'll be for people who are actually going to see the exhibition.
This man is a true national treasure, and we as South Africans need to celebrate the fact that we have an artist of his caliber amongst us.
There'll be critics. I can assure you, there'll be critics. But for me, what is important is somebody has challenged us to have a dialogue, to talk about ourselves.